And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write our story.
And there we are. So hey everybody, it's Gary, words from the wise, behind the anchor, and I've got a guest today, Mr. Leslie Prasad. Leslie is a buddy of mine from Guam. He's already on the screen. For those of you that have not heard his voice yet, Leslie, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, Gary. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm looking forward to the conversation, the fellowship, right? Which is, I tell Erica, I said this is actually turning into like my pseudo men's group, because I get with guys on here and we kind of talk about stuff, and it really is just a chance to catch up with people and talk and just kind of work through things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing we're missing is that Guam sunset and sitting down there looking at the sunset in the afternoon like we used to have conversation. That's awesome.
Hey, you know what? Guam did not suck, right? That was a great duty. There were some downtimes for sure, but living over in Apra was a phenomenal location, right? You had the ocean view, had the little quiet road. Great.
That was my front door view. Is as soon as you come out the front door, you're looking at the ocean going out to work in the morning, and in the evening you come back home, you turn around, you see the ocean right there too.
It really was. And you know, and I loved a lot about it. I really did. I loved a lot about it. And you know, Leslie, with your background, I want to get into your family, because your family's originally from Guyana.
Yes.
Right. And I had never met somebody from Guyana until before I'd met you, as far as Guyanese. And now since I'm in Ocala, there's a lot of people that understand Guyana and the Indian connection. So if you could kind of fill me in or fill us in, like what's the background between Guyana and like India? And then how does your family end up from Guyana to the States?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a loaded question. And there's a lot of things to know about Guyana. Well, Guyana, most people know about Georgetown, which is the center and the capital of Guyana. And it's mostly a metropolitan area. It's not as what you would think of metropolitan like New York City. It's just a bigger town with a lot of more stores, Americanized stores and stuff like that. And then you go to the area where I'm from, which is Berbice, Guyana. It's the rural part of Guyana where they had the cane fields in the back of the houses and stuff. And the cane fields go for miles. I think Guyana, don't fact check me, but Guyana is like the #2 producer in the world of sugar at the time I remember. At one point it was, at least. But you go further into the jungle, and that's where I'm from, in the Demerara River, growing up in the Amazon jungle. Almost literally that river falls into the Amazon jungle, and that's where I grew up. And I had a great time being like the kid in the Jungle Book, literally with loincloths around my waist, running around in the jungle, playing with all the animals and all that stuff. Not literally playing with them, but you know, having the encounter with all the different animals, having to like learn jungle type of lifestyle, how to catch fish, how to set traps, how to pick fruits, what type of fruit to eat, what type of fruit not to eat. Wow. And I did that until I was about 8 or 9 years old, before I came to the States. My grandfather, Mohan P. Chatu, he has passed since, but he had sponsored us, my entire family, to come to the States because he used to work at, I believe, CBS, and he was, I think, the security guard at the front door for CBS building in New York City. And because he had a decent income, he was able to sponsor my family, and we stayed and came to New York and stayed in a 3-bedroom house. It was called a duplex, and they had a family upstairs, like a single family upstairs and a single family downstairs. And my family, 5 of us, my dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, and we all stayed in one room when we first came to the States. Wow. The second bedroom was shared by my aunt and uncle and their daughter. That's 3 of them. And then my grandfather and grandmother, they stayed in the front of the house, the front room. And that was all of us living together in one home.
So your grandparents were in Guyana at first, and then they came to the States.
Yes, in the 70s.
In the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was both your grandpa and your grandma together that came up?
Yes, my grandpa and my grandma, along with my big uncle, my older uncle Lloyd, and then my other uncle Anin K Chatu, and then I think he brought my grandfather also brought over my other younger uncle Fenton. So those all came and they started, doing their things. I think they came at a younger age too, so that's why they brought the kids with them.
And when you got to New York and you came with your family, you said you're like 9 years old.
Yes, 8 or 9 years old.
What do you remember? Like, what was that feeling like? Like, was it on an airplane?
Oh
Like,
yes, I think we came on a Boeing 747.
okay.
So for a kid coming out of the jungle, seeing
Yeah.
this epic machine that flew over the airport, we were just in awe of like, how is that possible?
Right.
How is this metal object flying? And we stood in hours. That's one of the things we did. We came, like, mind you, the trip from where I live to Georgetown is about 6 hours and a boat ride.
Okay.
So you had to go for 3 or 4 hours on a road and then take a boat ride, cross over the river, and then you're in Georgetown after another hour of driving. So it's a long drive.
Right.
And then we get there, we see these magnificent machines and, big city type, quote unquote, big city.
Yeah.
But to see that we're gonna go on that thing that's gonna take off with us, the big old airplane, it was an amazing experience to see that. And having like 6 rows across or whatever it is, and mind you, you're in a car that's like you're fitting 15 people in one car that's like this small compared to all the room you get in an airplane. You're like, wow, this is amazing. So
I couldn't even imagine. I mean, my first airplane ride was when I went to basic training. Right. So I'd never gone on an airplane before, but I couldn't imagine going from living this carefree jungle life. I mean, I'm not going to say carefree because there was definitely, I'm sure, cares, right? But living this life of in the jungle, then all of a sudden getting on a plane and getting off the plane at freaking New York City. Like that's going from like 0 to 100 real quick.
I was like the kid going from one jungle to a concrete jungle. It's just
well, so when you got off the plane and you go to your grandparents' house and it's all the families are there, what borough does that put you in? Are you in Queens right off the bat?
Queens, New York. Yeah.
Queens, New York, right off the bat. And did you land in that area that you were telling me about? It's called Little Guyana?
Well, when we got there was not that many Guyanese in New York area.
Okay.
That's when they finally opened up the floodgates for Guyanese and West Indian, Trinidadian, Jamaican, all those folks to come into New York. I don't know what happened, I'm not familiar with what happened in immigration status at that time, but they allowed a lot of Caribbean folks to come at that time. And what happens? Caribbean, just like any other community that's the same culture type, they kind of flock together, try to have the same type of food, same type of restaurant, and eventually Liberty Avenue became very developed because that's where all the West Indian folks tend to settle. So you had Caribbean restaurants, all of the food and the spices that you could ever think of that you would find at home, you found it right there at the local spot. So that's why they called it, nicknamed it Little Guyana.
That's huge. I've been to New York a few times. My wife's lived from Brooklyn. Yeah, I've been to Queens, and I just think that place is such a, use the term melting pot, right? Because at the end of the day, it really is. It is a location full of a ton of cultures, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure it has the highs and its lows. But what was it like growing up in New York City for you? From, I mean, what was that? 5th grade, 6th grade?
I started out at 3rd grade.
Okay.
So I started out at 3rd grade. I think I just got there, and my English was horrible. I spoke patois, like it sounded Jamaican. Yeah, man, everything all right. That kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So
wow,
kids were horrible back then. Talk about being bullied now, right? Those back then, bullying and stopping bullying was not a thing. It was like you're getting exposed and you're gonna defend yourself. So people see you different. They're either beating you up or ragging on you, making fun of you, laughing at you, all this stuff. So you experience that, and as a, I think 8-year-old, 9-year-old, I want to say, you learn quickly, right? Oh, I'm not gonna sound like this amongst these people because I want to fit in.
Okay.
So my accent, you don't hear that twang, you don't hear that West Indian accent because I learned quickly that, oh, I'm going to speak English at home. I come home and I speak with my mom and dad in English, and they're like, boy, what are you doing? We don't talk like that in this house, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'm speaking Guyanese at home, English in school, and I have to be able to switch seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of those things. And then it was a challenge because the schooling that we had in Guyana, math was universal language. Easy. Math was like, we were way ahead of math. So I was scoring in the 99 percentile in math, but when it comes to English and reading, I couldn't read well.
Right.
And I couldn't speak well. Some of the words that they use in the English language, when you speak of it in Guyana, like zero, we say not. Well, that's what British uses, not.
Right.
And so, like, when I was writing words in English, I was saying the wrong words, and I pretty much failed the 3rd grade.
Okay.
Left back because my English comprehension was like in the 40s. It was horrible. But my math comprehension was in the 99s. So I took the class, the 3rd grade, over again, and became the oldest kid in school, or at the 3rd grade again. But at the same time, I met my lifelong friends like Rudra, VJ, Anwar, all those guys that are still friends with me now.
Wow. That's
and
awesome.
if they see this video, they'll be like, "Oh, he mentioned my name," you know.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Now, out of your brother and your sister, are you the oldest, the middle, the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Okay, so you had an older brother and older sister going through their experiences as well.
Yes.
Did they assimilate as fast as you did when it came to like with the language thing?
No, actually, my brother, I think he was at the cusp. He was like 12 or 13.
Okay.
And he was just at the cusp where his accent, he does a really good job, but he's still more of that strong Caribbean island accent when he speaks English. Okay. My sister, the same thing, but she has less of the strong island, but she could turn it on quickly, just like I
Okay. I can just imagine, man. I mean, I moved from Utah to Arizona when I was a kid, and it was a culture shock in a way, right? Living in an area that was predominantly, Mormon, right? In Utah, and then moving down to Arizona where it was not, right? So there was that shock. Again, I could just imagine going to New York City and trying to figure that out, and hearing my older brother and sister going through what they're going through, hearing my parents trying to figure out what they're going through because they're new to it as well. I mean, all y'all day one, same time. Luckily, Grandpa had some money for y'all, give y'all a place to live.
Yep.
Your dad had to figure out a job. Mom had to figure out what she was going to do. How long was it, do you think, until your family felt like they were comfortable?
All right. So we arrived about 10 years. I'm going to say that short answer, about 10 years. So we arrived in 86 when Mets won the World Series. I can tell you a story about that one.
Okay.
So we came in, like I said, we had nothing in the house, just a bed. And that's how we lived. And you go to school and you just had your clothes and that's it. So my brother and I, we found this old TV that the neighbors next door got rid of. It was like a black and white TV. And so we're like, yo, we could probably fix this. So my brother, we're tinkering. We're like, young to do it. So we stick a hanger in the back of it. And all of a sudden you see reception. We're like, yo, look at this. We got this. So somebody's got to stick back there now and look at hold a hanger so you can see what's happening on the tube. So we're there watching TV sideways.
Right.
But what happens is we found out that the World Series was happening. And that was the closest thing that we knew in our sports and our culture is cricket.
Right.
So we see these guys and they're hitting only 3 at a time. I'm like, what's going on? Why are they changing teams so often? 3 strikes, you're out, 3 times up. In cricket, it's the entire team bats at one time. If everybody gets out, the next team goes. And then the game's over after everybody's get knocked out. But this is something similar to what we're used to. So we started watching this, and it so happens the game that we were watching was the Mets winning the World Series in 1986.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember that vividly.
Okay. And how long had you been there at that point?
So that was like the first year or so that we were there.
First year.
Yeah.
And you said it felt like 10 years before you felt like your mom and your dad and everyone just kind of settled in and like this is home for them.
Yeah. So we lived at that house for 10 years, I would say. My grandfather and grandmother had passed away or got very ill and they had to be in a nursing home. So my mom had eventually started working, and they worked in belt factories, my dad and mom, and they were making only $100 a week. Back then, that was decent money, but it was not enough money. And so it came to a point where my aunt and uncle moved out from the second room and they moved upstairs to the top of the single family.
Okay.
And then we occupied the entire downstairs. And my grandmother, as she was getting older, and my grandfather had passed away, she was going up and down between the two families, like picking a room, staying there 1 month, and then coming down, staying another month, kind of helping out with the kids or whatever. But my mom and dad, they worked in that belt factory day in, day out, 5-6 days a week, about 10 hours a day, making $100 a week. I remember that paycheck.
Man,
It was tough.
a belt factory.
Belt factory, the metal belts. And my mom used to come home and having scars in her hand from the belt, the metal cutting her, and who knows what kind of chemicals was going into her bloodstream.
Right.
We didn't know back then. Those are the different industrial age.
Yeah.
But my uncle, Anin, he had a job at the Wonder Bread, and they needed people to pack. Now, my dad did not know how to read, but he knew how to count. Like money is universal, right? Math is universal. So all he needed is somebody to pack the bread into the shelf and stack it so it can be shipped out. I remember my uncle upstairs and my dad went to the job on the same day. My uncle left 5 hours later because he says, this work is not for me. My dad stayed on and he continued to do that job. And he raised this paycheck from $100 a week to $450 a week. I remember his paycheck because mom always shared everything about us and showed us how hard everything is, step by step, how everything is. So from there, it became, wow, that's 4 times the amount of money that we would have, my mom and dad would have made. And that helped us to, get more clothes and buy furniture for the house. And so she started establishing and starting saving from there. Yeah. My mom also went and she took up nurse's aide, and she went back to school. She knew how to read and write, and she went back to school, became a nurse's aide, and became a home attendant for elderly because my grandmother was kind of in that situation, and she was taking care of them anyway. So she just went back to school and got that certification. And then from there, her paycheck went up. And then from there, they started saving a lot more money because they were used to living like that with $100, $200 a week. And it was like 4 or 5 times much more money now. And she was able to put away money. And I think in 1996, we moved out and she bought a house in Woodhaven Boulevard.
Okay. And
it was a house that was built in the 1930s. And my brother and I, we were about teenagers at that time. We learned how to be carpenters really quick that year. Yeah. We stripped every single wall from wallpaper, ripped out all the floors, redid everything. Now, we weren't the best. It looked horrible when we were done with it. But it was our home, and we could have still improved on it. But yeah, that's where we learned all the skills and trades and what we could work with our hands. Because our parents, they were busy working. So on our free time in the summer, that's what we did.
Now, where you guys lived for the first 10 years, did your grandparents end up owning that building?
They owned that building.
Okay.
They had initially bought the building. And, with any family issues, when it comes to selling a place after the parents have passed, there's always some family drama that goes along with it. So, so there was issues. When that house was sold, the extra money that came was used to help pay for that down payment.
Nice.
Of the next house that we got.
My wife's family is also from New York, and they had a very similar situation where the family came from Puerto Rico, and the grandparents had bought a building way back in the day, right? Like in probably the 50s or the 60s, when it was not as expensive to get the building. And then they just kept it for a long time. Then at some point they sold it around that very similar time and was able to then reinvest, and figure that out because the property values had raised. So kudos to your grandma and grandpa for securing that building for y'all.
Absolutely.
For you guys to have it for that 10-year period of time, for you guys to then take that and invest it into another building for your family. Mm-hmm. And you grew up in New York City through the late 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Was it like the movies, bro?
Yes, every single train station you went through had graffiti all over it. In the 80s. All the way up to like the early 90s, like 95 or so. Then it started cleaning up. Who's the name? I forgot the mayor's name, but he did a great job. Giuliani. Yeah, he did a great job cleaning up the city and had a severe impact on all the gang wars that they used to have. I remember when I was a teenager, you could not wear a certain color and cross a certain section of the block, because if I was to wear a blue like this and I ended up going into the Bloods block, it would have been I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Getting jumped at left and right. But that's
Wow.
the type of stuff that he did a great job of squashing all of that hatred and discontent behind territories.
I mean, I've only been to New York since I met Erica and after the 2000s, right? And so when I've gone there, I love the hustle and bustle. I love the transit. Of course, I'm not out late at night, right? We're not going to be out there in those times that are possibly going to be the worst of times. But I can only imagine, because growing up in the 90s and watching the movies, like New Jack City or whatever, and seeing New York, and then here you guys are growing up in New York, right? I can just imagine. So you eventually decide to join the military, right?
Yes.
What drove that decision for you to? I mean, so citizenship, did that come to you? I mean, were you immediately a citizen? Did you guys have to go through a process?
Absolutely not. I have a bunch of stories for that one for you, but I'll get to you on that one. But this is cool. So being in New York, you're gonna be always getting into trouble as a young teenager. Either you avoid it or you're just a part of it, right? So as I remember going into one of the blocks, and I took Taekwondo at YMCA when I was young, so I knew how to defend myself. But I'm not gonna say I'm a martial arts expert. But I was approached by 5 guys, and I had my buddy Nizam with me. And we were near our block, like literally 5 houses away from our block. So these guys said, "Hey, give me your money." And I pull out my pocket, I got nothing. Turned out my pocket, got nothing. They're like, "No, you're going to give us something." So I think they wanted my JanSport book bag at the time. I don't know, whatever. So I said, "Hey, take it. I just need my books that's in the bag." Because it was, school books. And my mom did not have money to pay for books. So I just need my books. You got the bag, whatever. So they said, "No, I'm taking your books." I said, no. So out of nowhere, somebody clocked me on the back of my eye, and the 5 guys and my friend just ran off, and the 5 guys jumped us. So at that time, survival instincts kicked in. I whooped 3 of the guys, and 2 of them ran away.
Oh, wow.
I was on the floor getting kicked. I got up and crushed the other 3. And then got my book bag back, and I walked away and left. Well, somebody got really hurt, and they went to the hospital and said that I beat them up. I get detectives come to my house. They arrest me. I get into trouble.
Wow.
And yes, this is all the stuff that happens, right? So this is the typical life of a New York teenager. So I need to get out of the city. I graduated high school. I got nothing else, no prospects. I have no way to pay for college, all that stuff. So my friend Vijay Singh, who is now he was a reserve nurse now. I'll tell you that story too if you get that time. But Vijay, he and I went to school. We rode those trains together along with Rudra, and he joined the Navy. And I was like, "Yo, man, give me the number of your recruiter because I need to get in there too because I can't be in this environment."
Right.
So graduate school, the recruiter calls me. I go to Long Island. He signs the paper. I got to bring it back to mom. Mom's like, "No, you're not joining the Navy. You're not going to go kill people. And nobody's going to kill you in the military." That's the whole thing. Right. I said, "Mom," and the recruiter told him, he says, "Ma'am, your son has a higher chance of getting killed in New York City than he does being in the military." And I believe that statistic because in the way that what was happening in New York at the time for young kids and young teenagers, I believed it. And so my mom signed the papers, and after I graduated high school, I was able to join the Navy. At the same time, they said, "Hey, if you become a citizen, you need to apply for citizenship because the job that I qualified for with my grades was being a nuclear technician."
Oh, wow.
They said, "You scored so high in the ASVAB, I think it was an 89 or 85, one of the two, that you can just go to school after you graduate boot camp. You go to Orlando, I think it was, the nuke school, and you can become a nuclear technician, get promoted to E5 by the time you graduate, and a $30,000 bonus at the time." Right. So I was like, "Bet, let's do that." Right? I want that. That's my life. It's gonna be good, right? So I joined. Mind you, I applied for citizenship. When waiting, nothing happened. I get into boot camp, and a moment of truth occurs. I say nothing because the recruiter said that charge was nothing. It's not even there. Don't worry about it. Don't say nothing. Just keep on moving.
Yeah.
Get into boot camp, graduate boot camp, get into corps school. And at that time, core school's senior chief was Joe Campa. I don't know if you know that guy.
I know that guy.
Senior Chief Joe Campa. Now, and he eventually becomes MCPON.
He
right?
does, yeah, definitely one of the most important McPawns in my opinion ever, right? Period.
Yeah. So
he changes, yeah.
So he's there. He's the senior enlisted leader of the school. And he pulls me in an office after like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of school. And he says, I need you to pack your bags, go to your room, pack your bags. You're leaving my Navy. Looks me straight in the eye. And I'm like, what senior? What's going on? Like my entire life crumbled before me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm thinking I have to go back to New York as a failure to my in the sight of my family, as a failure to all the things that have, like, all these things are going in my head. And he says, why didn't you tell us the truth? I'm like, what are you talking about? I was told not to say anything because they dropped the case. Nothing happened. It was a self-defense case. Well, apparently if you get arrested in New York City, it's a felony for that type of incident. It's considered a felony and it goes into a federal database. And in order for it to be dismissed, it gets dismissed in New York, but the file of the case is still in the federal log.
Okay.
So when the recruiter told me don't say anything, he was not tracking the federal has the log up there.
Yeah.
And it's squashed in New York. So it was nothing in New York. So Joe tells me to go to New York and find out from them and give me a document. Exactly. So I reached out to my mom and said, Mom, I need you to go to the courts and get a paper of the case number and what has happened. So I'll bring it back and give it to him. And Joe says, okay, well, this is going to be adjudicated. The document you give me is going to be adjudicated. So in the meantime, if I see your grades drop below a 90 in the next 4 weeks, you're going to be kicked out of core school as it's being adjudicated. So 2 weeks into it, I'm like top notch in the class now. I'm in 99 percentile. I'm the top number one because I don't want anything come back negative on me. And Joe calls me and he's like, Seaman recruit. I wasn't even a corpsman yet. Seaman recruit. Why are you in my school? Yeah. You are like number one in my class. Why are you not in the Naval Academy? Well, I said, well, Senior Chief, I'm not a citizen and I need to be a citizen. Oh, I didn't become a nuke because after—
I was going to ask you that part.
My bad. I forgot about that. After graduating boot camp, I was ready to get my orders. You know how they issue your orders to nuke school, and the RDC comes to me like, hey, we just found out you're not a citizen. You can't do this school.
Right.
To be a nuke.
So, you would think the Navy would have figured that out at MEPS, right? When they're putting you in, like they're giving you a contract. Yeah. We're selling you to go to the service to be a nuke. And, oh, we just remembered. You can't. So you know what? You're going to be pick a flavor, any flavor.
Yeah. So we have corpsman or undesignated. Choose one. So I chose corpsman. So that's where it brings me back to core school. And I'm going, he's like, why are you here? You're like number one in your class and you got this stuff. Why are you not in the Naval Academy? Why don't you? I'm like, sir, I can't be Senior Chief. I can't be in the Naval Academy because apparently I'm not a citizen. You need to be a citizen to do that. Because I did look into it. And he's like, well, know this, I would recommend you if you become a citizen. I said, well, at that same time, they had called me to go to interview in New York City to be a citizen. And I was in core school. I could not leave because, you know, you got to finish your school in order to do that. So that opportunity to become a citizen passed. Graduated core school, went to San Diego. When I got to San Diego, they told me I had to apply in San Diego because that's where I'm at now. So I was there. I was going to be there for a year and a half because I went to surgical tech school after graduating core school. That's like, hey, we got to see a school open up. You want to do that? You could be an X-ray tech or you could be a surgical tech. I said, fine, I'll do a surgical tech.
Yeah.
I had the biggest fear of blood. My knees buckled when I seen blood. And the stupid me in me, I was like, all right, I'm going to challenge my fears. I'm going to encounter this.
Yeah.
However, they're going to get me through it, right? So I go through it and graduate surgery tech school. My first surgery happens to be a delivery of a baby. Oof. And it's the bloodiest thing you see, right? and my knees are weak, and the doctor passes the baby to me and says, hey, pass this off to the back table to the nurse. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? My fear was gone after that because I knew I had a life in my hand
Yeah.
and I was not about to faint with a life in my hand. You know, so I was like,
Right.
all right, I got this. Bloody or not, here you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And then from there on out, man, it just was things. So yeah, my citizenship waited in San Diego for that whole year and a half I was in training and never called me. I got orders to Jacksonville, Florida. I was there for 5 years and I applied in Jacksonville. They never called me. So now 7 or 8 years has passed, and I go to Maryland for another 5 years. I was a surge tech working in ophthalmology at that time, working with eyes. And one of the perks of being in Bethesda is that you work with all the congressmen, the senators, president, vice president, stuff like that. You can be a part of the team.
Right.
For the life of me, I can't remember his name, and this is documented. So I wish I get his name, but I remember his face. I got to pull his name up. But he came and he had an eye illness that you could not fix with glasses. It was a corneal issue that your cornea is deformed and you're not able to see. But at that time, I was working with Captain Pasternak or Commander Pasternak at the time. And he says, hey, go ahead and do the screening before and we'll take him. I'll fit him in my schedule. So I go and see him. I looked at his eye and like, sir, come on over. Let's go get some glasses fit for you. He's like, don't even bother. It never works. They try it all the time and it never works. And I was like, sir, I think you'll be able to see at least 20/40. And this guy was like a 2200 or 2400. He could not see without, it's just his cornea was bad. So I took him in there, got him his frames, I fit him up, and he was able to see back down to 20/25. Wow. Almost near perfect. And for that moment, he's like, why are you not a doctor? Right? And just me just jokingly, I said, well, sir, in order for you to be a doctor in the Navy, you got to be a citizen. I'm not a citizen. Right? So I took his records back to Captain Pasternak and I said, sir, you want to take a look at this? And Captain Pasternak was like, yeah, sure. Let's see what you got. And I showed him that I got glasses and got him down to 20/25. He's like, no, you didn't. That didn't happen. It's not true. So I set up the frame and gave it to him and I had the patient sit there and he had the patient read. And lo and behold, the senator was able to see 20/25. And he's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And the senator asked Captain Pasternak, why is this guy not a doctor? And he's like, he doesn't have his citizenship. Unfortunately, that's the process in an officer community. He said, give me a social security number. I wrote down my social security number, my first name, last name, and I told him my application was in Baltimore, awaiting review for, just the screening and the test. The very next morning, HM3 Prasad, right, gets a phone call from the director of Baltimore Immigration Naturalization Office. The director. He says, can you please come to my office within the next 2 hours? Let me speak to your boss and have them excuse you from work for the day because I have a senator down my neck and he wants you to be a citizen tomorrow. And that's how I became a citizen in the United States.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is freaking awesome. But hey, and that's a good, hey, that's incredible, man.
So that's how I became a citizen, and I did the application for becoming a med school student and all I went through while I was in Bethesda. It was a full-time job being a clinician, but I had access to a computer. So in between patients, I would do my homework. In between patients, I was taking 21 credits, my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and trying to get all my pre-medical classes out of the way while I was doing a full-time job.
So at that time, you were trying to get a medical degree.
I was trying to become a doctor.
You were trying to become a doctor at that time. And you had been in the Navy, if I understand you. You did 5 years in Jax at the Naval Hospital in Jacksonville the whole time.
Naval Hospital in Jacksonville.
The whole time, surge tech. Then you went to Maryland, and you're there for 5 years.
Yep.
And what does that take you to HM2?
I was a HM3 when I checked on board, and I just had become an HM2 after just about leaving there.
So you're HM2, and you were looking to apply to go what, Seaman to Admiral or something like that, or what's that commissioning path you were looking at?
So that was another thing. We have a lot of programs now, like the State 21 program, not the State 21 program, excuse me. We have
the nurse program. I know that one.
Medical commissioning program.
Yeah, Misa.
So I reached out to the dean at the time at USIS, and I said, ma'am, why is it that we don't have a medical missioning program for corpsmen that work with doctors that are enlisted, that are have their degree or working towards their degree, that we don't have a streamlined effort to help them become commissioned? And she goes, that's a interesting thing. And so she said, I'm going to look into that. So she looks into it. And then a couple months later, I think his name was Mohammed Hassan, was another HM1 with me that went through that time.
Yeah.
He and I both applied. He was an HM1, I was an E5. And we applied for the program. And it was a requirement that you had to get a 24 on your MCAT in order to get into USIS. And I wasn't able to make that mark. That was my one big kick in the groin in academics, that I felt like an absolute failure that one time. But God had a plan for me, and it wasn't that. So it took me a while to realize that.
Yeah, that's always hard, man. When you think especially when you've been putting so much work in, and it's hard because having faith is tough, right? Let's be honest, it really is. Especially when you're like a hardworking person, and you're like, God, I believe it. I know I need to work hard too, so I'm going to contribute, and then help me make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And then you're putting all this work in, and then it just doesn't work out, and you're trying to understand. And am I mad at myself? Am I frustrated? Am I disappointed? And like you said, that was just a mark you were not able to get to. And then, okay, what's the next? What's the real plan here then? And Leslie, do you believe that there is a preordained plan, or do you believe that there's just options and opportunities, and you're gonna make it work? Like, what do you think?
So I have learned in my lifetime, and I have a lot to live yet, but I learned to listen to what God has in store for me. Every opportunity that comes my way, I will continue to pursue it until there's an absolute definitive no.
Okay.
And the no, sometimes, I'm going to go a little bit spiritual here. People pray, right? And they pray expecting, which is the way you should pray. But sometimes they expect the will for themselves instead of what God wills for them.
Yes.
Sometimes a no is the answer to your prayers. And it took me a while to understand that.
Yeah.
It takes a very, very mature person to understand that no is actually what's good for you.
Yeah, praying for God's will to be done.
Yes.
Not your will to be done.
Not my will.
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. And coming up through my life, as I've worked with people and I've counseled people that are going through that struggle, and having gone through my own struggles, it's just like trying to let them know that it's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. I had a buddy of mine contact me about something I'd gone through in the past. And I was like, looking back on it, it was just a setup for a come up, right? It was just an opportunity for me to rebound and move forward. Because if everything always worked out the way you wanted it to the first time, what would be the fun in that, right? Like, let's be honest.
That's absolutely true.
So here you are.
I have a story about that particular thing, in that, and this is a sad story, but it's the truth. Okay. My mom fell ill and had breast cancer, had brain tumor, and eventually was like a quadriplegic in bed. She literally couldn't move. And my prayer was for her to be healed and restored. Mm-hmm. Right. And it took 6 years of her living like that for me to realize that that's not going to be answered. That prayer is not going to be answered. But in those 6 years, what it did for me is help my heart to realize that I'm able to let her go. Because if she was to just leave this planet, because I love my mom so much, right? Yeah. If she was to leave this planet immediately, like without any warning, I would have destroyed. I would have been I don't know what would happen to me. Yeah. But because God has given me the ability to see her digress, right? People may count that as a curse. I kind of see it as a blessing, because I was able to continue to talk to her for 6 extra years. Yeah. Right. And then when she left, my heart was ready for her to go and enjoy peace. Yeah. So if anything, man, that's the only example I could tell you that God has.
That's a big one. And God bless your mom. It sounds like she went through it, bro. Like that sounds. And you know, I've seen that as well with my grandparents and with my parents. Now, was your dad still alive at that point, or had your dad
Oh,
already passed away?
my dad is still alive. He's still kicking right now. He's 70,
Oh my
75
God! So
years
your
old.
dad had to see his wife go through all that and
Yes.
be strong for her through all that and live a life. That right there, for me, my heart goes out to him because I just couldn't imagine what life would be like. But I'm sure he was also to the point where he was like he appreciated the time, but
Yep.
he was also probably because she fought a hard fight. It sounds like
Yes, she
and
did.
and walk the walk, man. That's I remember when so my dad passed away when we were in Guam, right around the same time we met. And I flew back home for my dad. My mom had passed away about a year before that, a year and a half, 2 years before that. And my dad, yeah, went to the hospital and my aunt had called me up and said, "Hey, they just sent your dad home." And they basically said, you're gonna go home to die, right? And I was like, well, what do I do? And then they're like, we can't tell you that. You know, you do what you gotta do. So I flew home and it was just me. I left Erica and Hayden and Lincoln there at Guam, you know, and I flew home. And the first night, he was able to come out to the living room, right? And so we laughed and we laughed and we had a good time, right? That first night. And every night, every day, he incrementally deteriorated more and more and more. So much to the point that I think it was by the third or fourth day, we had him actually in a hospital bed. And me and my aunts and my uncle were like we're like in shifts. And me and my dad would be up talking, watching movies, just sitting there, talking about life, you know. And I remember one time we were supposed to give him some medicine, right? And he had this big pill box, right? And my aunt's looking for all of his medication. And I was like, Dad, what the hell are we doing? I thought we were dying. Why are we giving you medicine? He was like, you're right. Screw that medicine. He was like,
Yeah.
screw it. And I remember I really was so thankful for having the opportunity to have been there in that week, to have had those conversations with him and have cried and laughed and
Yeah.
talked about things. And he was just ready to go be with his girl, man. He was just like, you know what? I miss your mom. I'm ready to go. He felt like he was done. And I really hope I can not only have, hopefully my son someday, whenever it's my turn to go, they can find the peace in their life to be okay with whatever's going to happen, because I believe, right, that it's going to be okay. And then I hope I'm going to be able to have that same peace. And so, and it sounds like the experience you went through with your mom took you on that road, that journey of faith and understanding that God, you know, I've got to put my trust in you. And
Absolutely.
and it's not over, man. Like it's not over. Like I don't know. I'm sure you felt your mom's, you know, spirit or the memories and all of that to let you know that there's still future. And yeah,
Bro, I can't tell you how much influence my mom has in my life. Everything I do, everything I pursue, it's crazy. Rebecca tells me that I can't stop, right? It's like, why are you still pursuing? Why are you still pursuing? Because I feel like my mom has instilled that in me. We came from nothing, right? And
yeah,
it's not the fact of lack that I pursue. It's the fact that my mom says, keep on going. If the opportunity is there, keep on doing, because what your grandparents did for you, what we did for me, I mean, sorry, what she did for me, you should do 10 times more for your kids. It's even biblical. I can't remember the phrase exactly in the Bible, but a father is supposed to set up his kids for generations to
yeah,
come. Not just, hey, thank you, 18-year-old, get out the house. That's the mindset, the American mindset that we've quote unquote adopted. But I feel that if we're going to stay biblical, I need to prepare him and his kids. And that's what I'm trying to pursue. And if my parents and my grandparents were able to do that for me, starting from nothing,
yeah.
they should be able to be 10 times better.
I agree, man. And you know, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. And when we get together, I remember I was watching a video the other day about if you got compound earnings, right? What about compound blessings, compound
Absolutely.
progress, right? Right? Like just because I got money in the bank and it's growing for all this time, my progress should get pushed down to my kids and then they should compound it. And
Absolutely.
hopefully we're all working on very similar things. And oh, by the way, if every generation has to reinvent themselves, you're just like losing ground every time.
That's right.
Instead, find a way to line it all up where it can be. I mean, find your passion, check. Find the thing that makes you happy, check. But figure out a way to help it row, bro, for the team, so we
Mhm.
can all keep the momentum going, so that we don't lose this momentum that the generations behind us really had to get going,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And it's hard to get that. I sent the video to my son and to another one of my cadets that I care about a lot, because I'm like, watch this, and they were both like, that's a lot of words, and I was like, no, bro, take it serious, right? Like, I want you guys to see the value in listening to what I'm thinking about, and listen to the ideas that I have, and figuring out ways you can you can do your own thing, but help with this stuff too, because it really will help everyone out in the bigger picture.
That's right.
Right. And too many people, and to your point, Western culture, this whole idea of get out of the house and go find your own way. Back in the old days, they all had a ranch,
Yep.
and you would grow up on the ranch, and you'd learn how to run the ranch, and you'd learn how to make the ranch bigger. Right.
Mhm.
And everybody would work on the ranch to get it. That was the American way. That
Mhm.
was the Western way. It's just things got changed where people got tricked to think that they've got to go out and do something completely different. And I'm like you. I
Yep.
don't agree. I think that if you stay tight linked with your family or with your community, even if it's through virtual means, right? Because the world is very small nowadays with technology, right?
Absolutely.
You can be where you are, and I can be here in Central Florida. We can get on this conversation, and we could make things happen, right? And you can do the same thing with your family. And so with your mom, I'll go back to that real quick, because you left home at a relatively young age, right? Joined the military. And then you got, fortunately, so I guess Bethesda, you got the chance to be nearby home,
Mhm. I
right?
was driving up every other weekend pretty much.
And then in Jacksonville, I mean, you were stateside. So were you ever, when was your first time? When did you get married? Did you get married in Bethesda?
I got married a year 2 years after joining, no, 4 years after joining the Navy. I
Okay.
was in Jacksonville,
Okay.
and my girlfriend since boot camp, like we were in high school.
Right.
Rebecca was my high school sweetheart.
Right.
So I knew that I was gonna marry her, because that's the voice in my head that said, when I looked at her for the first time, said, "That's your wife." And I'm a 17-year-old kid, like, where's that voice coming from? Right? You listen, you were close to God, right? That was it. And I archived that in the back of my head. I was like, yeah, if it happens, it happens,
Yeah.
I'm Guyanese, she Puerto Rican. My mom would never agree to that. That's just whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so happens that I'd go off to boot camp. Rebecca writes me letters. I graduate boot camp. Guess who comes along with my mom? My mom had told Rebecca when we were dating and when I was in New York, you need to leave my son alone because he's different, right? He's different around you. So happens my girlfriend Rebecca accompanies my mom in her sickly state because she had gotten cancer at that time. She was taking chemo and all that stuff, but she accompanied my mom to my boot camp graduation.
Wow.
And my mom got to see the type of person she was, because literally plane ride, hotel stays, helping her out, doing all the things. And she was part of the family pretty much.
And
And
was Rebecca already doing nursing school at that time?
no, she was going at that time, she was working on her bachelor's degree for family consumer science.
Okay.
So it's like a nutritionist type of
Okay.
degree.
Got it.
But yeah, she was in college at the time, and then she took my mom. My mom was so like organized. She brought her own stove, like electrical stove, and brought it to the hotel. Bought all her spices and got like frozen meat, and she packed it in a suitcase. And when I came home to visit after graduating, guess what? She was making some curry in the hotel room for me, bro.
Oh,
Home cooked food, ready to go.
wow, that's great, man.
Rebecca was there helping her through all of that stuff, and then my mom and Rebecca came really, really close and tight, and I knew that at that point, like, man, that's the girl. Like, if she's able to, hang with my mom and not get into arguments and all that stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, that voice was right. That is my wife. That's wifey.
So was your family Christians even in Guyana?
No, we were Hindu. And
Okay.
I remember as a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old, I would be like forced to sit in front of this image and have the little incense and candle burning, and my mom's like, "Close your eyes and pray," that type of stuff. And you don't want to do any of that stuff.
No.
You're like, why is this thing a monster? I'm scared,
Yeah. Yeah.
They have all these images with like an elephant, a lady and a tiger, all that stuff. I could
Yeah.
name the names, but I don't want to go into all that. But
Right.
it was that was the culture. But as a kid, I remember we used to have this thick Bible that had all the pictures in it. And I used to read that thing like it was clockwork. I remember all the stories of Moses and Noah and all of the cool pictures that came along with it. You read this, and I love those kinds of things. And my mom used to read that to me when I was a kid. That was kind of cool.
Okay.
But we were never considered Christian until my mom came and we came to the States and we went to a Pentecostal church, speaking in tongues and all that stuff. It was.
Yeah.
And the thing that convinced me, I'm going to speak all live, and then people can believe it or not, but this is what I saw with my own eyes as a 13-year-old kid, right? I saw my mom getting prayed for, and she started convulsing. She fell from the platform on her back, hit her head on tile, and nothing happened to her. She was healthy, right? She got up, and during that time, I think they said she was possessed with all the prayers that she used to do or whatever.
Right.
They said she was possessed, and she flung a guy that was, I don't know, like 6'2", took him by the hand and flung him across the room like it was nothing. And she was 5'2".
Wow.
Now, seeing that with my eyes, I'm like, what's happening with Mama? Well, why is Mama, I'm like all emotional. What's wrong with Mama? Why is she doing that? And lo and behold, after that, she became born again, and she got rid of all the idols in the house, and we became a Christian based on her type of lifestyle. My dad was like, I'm not doing this. That's my dad. I'm not doing this. This is silly. This is and I'm going to be racial, but he was like, well, that's a white man religion. We ain't messing with that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what dad was. That was truthful. I mean, I'm not going to lie with that, but now my dad's Christian.
Okay.
Because of the lifestyle my mom had convinced him.
Yeah.
That she has changed drastically. I'm not saying my mom was all angels, but she had her temper. But being a Christian kind of changed her mindset and the way she talked to people and stuff like that. And my dad saw her faith till the end of her life. And from there, he became a Christian. He's like, I'm going to do what you do so I can be with you.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I say this because I know your soul, I know your spirit, I know your belief system. We went to the same church together in Guam, and I just know your spirit for service, and so I was interested to know your background of that. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a couple students that are Indian background. I would talk to them about you, about Guyanese, and I'd tell them you're a Christian, and they'd be like, "He's Christian, really?" And one of my students, she's South Indian, but she's Catholic.
Okay.
Her family's from that part of South India that are Catholicism, right? And then I got another one he's South Indian as well, but he's more Hindu, but great young people, right? And we have these kinds of conversations. And so I was curious to hear that conversion story, I guess, if you will. And then it came through the Pentecostal lens. That's fire and brimstone right there, baby. Wow. They coming in hot.
So there's in that same church that we were at in New York City, there was a teacher, Sunday school teacher. It's so funny how people influence your life.
Yeah.
In such small ways, but it becomes a drastic change. Just the volunteer aspect of just going to a church and volunteering and helping in a Sunday school with kids that you think is just a chore. I'm just doing this to help out, right?
Right.
Ruth Ramsamy was my teacher in that school. And we call her Sister Ruth, right? Because she's, elder, right? But she used to speak the Bible like my mom. She used to read the Bible like she did in Guyana. Ruth used to read the Bible and ask intriguing questions like, hey, so I read this. What do you guys think about it?
Right. Get you to critically think.
Oh, man. And critical stuff. And she would correct us and be like, hey, this is a different way of looking at it. What do you think about that?
100%.
And she opened up my eyes to the Bible in that regards, to question everything. Just because it's written in the Bible and you have a perception of what is written, there's multiple ways of interpreting the word and understanding context and timelines and so many different things. And she did that at Sunday school, man. And from there I grew. You said I serve in the church, and I started serving in the church because her husband, Joseph Ramsamy, right? He was a guitar player. And I at that time was in junior high school. and I started playing the bass. And so he was only playing guitar, and that was the only thing that's there. And he's like, "Hey, you play the bass? Can you just read the notes, and I'll tell you which note you play?" So I was like, "Sure, I'll do that." I'm here, a 13-year-old kid or a 14-year-old kid, just playing the
Right.
bass in front of everybody in church, right? Had no clue what I was doing. I was just following Joseph, right?
Right.
And I still remember he had a Les Paul Gibson guitar, and I didn't know what it was at the time.
Right.
He had like a $1,500 guitar that he played with, and he was letting me play with that. I had no clue. Kid from the jungle playing a Les Paul.
I was gonna ask you that. So, Kid from the Jungle. Now you play how many instruments?
So I play guitar, bass, trumpet, saxophone, drums. Pretty much I could pick up anything.
Incredible. Incredible. And you just picked all that up kind of on your own as you went through life. You
Yes.
thought you were interested in it and figured out to learn how to play an instrument.
Yeah, so that basically I play bass, and then for the guitar part, Joseph had left to go to a different location. He moved to Orlando. He's still there in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
And so they said, "Hey, bass and guitar is the same instrument, isn't it? So you can play." No, it's not. So, but to not let people down, I went home, and I took a guitar and I started practicing. My fingers started literally to bleed just so I could be prepared to play 3 songs by Sunday.
Wow.
And then I went there, and it was horrible, man. I tell you what, it was my first audition of not knowing how people sing and not knowing the chords they were singing, and I was playing different chords. Right? It was a wreck.
But what's powerful, it was like I remember church in Guam when your family first got there. It was like you read like the Partridge Family up there because like all your kids were playing instruments, right? And you were up there playing, and the fact that all of your children have a love for music and an ability to play music in your home, and your home is just very musical. I think, and that's service, that's spirit, that's praise.
Yep.
Right. It's all those things. I want to come back to all that, but I want to go back to Bethesda. So your mom passes away, and by that point, are you a dad yet? At that point, when your mom passed away?
Yes, actually, I was a dad twice over. Caleb was born already because my wife was going through nursing school in Bethesda at the time.
Yeah.
And then Micah was born and about 6 months old when we found out mom was really, really ill and we needed to go back to New York to see her.
Okay.
And we went up to New York. She got a chance to hold Micah as her last grandchild.
Wow.
And saw that her son was doing good. She gave me that smile. And the next couple of days she was gone.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so you come out of that. What's yours and Rebecca's next thought? Like Bethesda's about to wrap up. You're up for orders. You're an HM2 at the time. You got 2 kids now. And are you still trying to commission? You're a citizen now.
So at that time, I had failed my MCAT.
Yep.
Right. And totally got a gut punch. My mom was the motivating factor behind why I wanted to be a doctor because of all her illnesses and all her disease associated with it, because I was going to be her hero. She was mine. I might as well be hers. Right. I was gonna find a cure for cancer and do all that stuff. I was doing that for the wrong reasons. I didn't want to do that. I was doing it because of mom. It's not something that, you say find your joy, find the things that make you happy, right?
Yeah.
So it took me 3 years to overcome that mindset of me pursuing things because mom wanted me to do it, wanted to see this happening. And that was the first time that I chose orders overseas, right? Rebecca was still in nursing school, and so she couldn't leave because she would mess up with the program. So I chose orders to Bahrain.
Okay.
And that was an unaccompanied tour for, I think, 12 months at the time. And I found and discovered myself when I was in Bahrain because I never got that opportunity. A kid straight out of high school, getting married a year after boot camp, having a wife, having kids following on, not knowing who you really are, a person. Granted, you had to walk and all that stuff, but going to Bahrain helped me to be independent. I had to live on my own, go to work on my, that kind of stuff, make my own food or go out and buy or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
figure out who I am, what I like, what I didn't like. It's not like, hey, honey, what do you want to do this afternoon? It's now, what do I want to do this afternoon? And so it was a very, very educational experience. I had a good friend of mine, Rasan Fenner, right, that worked co-workers with me. He was a civilian contractor that worked the CHCS medical system, right? And that guy helped me. He's like a brother from another mother, man. I tell you what, that dude is like a ride or die guy.
Yeah.
I remember I was very, very harsh and brash with the certain, you think I'm brash now, right? But I was very, very abrupt in anything I said and via email. So he would come over to my, hey man, you can add a couple of words that make it feel like it's more welcoming when you say certain
Yeah.
right? I'm like, what do you mean, man? I'm just trying to get my point across.
Yeah.
And I never was mentored on how to do that right? Some of the things I like, oh, this looks cool. Let me put all cap locks in this sentence.
Right.
I had no idea what email etiquette was, because that's when it first started. Like, it was still a new thing back then. And so he and I would stay from morning 6:30 all the way till 1800 at night, because Bahrain, you got no family to go home to, right? So you might as well just get all the work done. And
it's like a 1 year long deployment. Yeah.
That's right. And from there, man, I don't want to talk Navy, but basically I had every single job known to man all in one command as a first class. I was the career counselor. I was the admin guy. I was the occupational health immunization guy. I was everything you could think of that it had a job to do, that I was helping out with it, because we had X amount of staff. So everybody was doing everything.
So you got the opportunity to do a lot of the collateral opportunities inside of your job.
And that was the first time that I was what most people call a quad zero, general duty corpsman.
Okay. Did you give up your surgical tech NEC at that point?
Yes.
So what that means for everyone, just so you know, Leslie decided to step away from the surgical tech world and to put himself in a space that he was going to be open to whatever the hospital corpsman community needed from him. So it sounds like you stopped focusing so much and maybe getting your commission as a doctor and started focusing on career progression as a corpsman and diversifying in that route.
Absolutely. Prior to archiving my NEC, I forgot, when I was in Bethesda, I got orders to Comfort. And that's another story. I think we're running out of time, but I just wanted to let you know we got orders to the Comfort. And in 2005, I went and responded to Katrina Rita, right? Mm-hmm. And remember, I worked in the ophthalmology area, and I helped create glasses, 300 some odd pairs of glasses, so all the workers and people that were lost all their glasses during the storm and all that stuff. So we gave that
got deployed out of Bethesda to Comfort and was on the Navy's hospital ship for the East Coast.
Yes. And then right after that, after finishing in Bethesda, I got orders to Comfort as the Ross crew and prepared that ship. And we went to Continuing Promise 2009, which I was able to see Haiti and all this other stuff. Haiti, Panama, Dominican Republic, and Colombia and Honduras, all those different countries. And then came back. As soon as we got back, earthquake hit Haiti. So we responded to Haiti in 2010. And that was the first time leadership became very vital to me. I was groomed as I went as a surge tech. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first time I was forced to become a leader, not a technician. So being the Ross crew, you knew where everything was, and you had to advise the technicians coming on board from different parts of the country how to use the equipment that you have at your facility at the MTF, at the hospital ship, sorry. And so I was faced with 120 surgical technicians ranging from an E5 all the way down to E2, E3.
Yeah.
And we were about to pull into Haiti, where we didn't know what to expect. And we heard the stories that there's crushing injuries, back injuries, amputations, all these different kinds of things that was going to happen. So I stood in front of these 120 sailors and I said, who knows without a shadow of a doubt what orthopedic surgery is, what GYN surgery is, what general surgery is? And as I'm asking you, I want you to put your hands up immediately. So ortho, and I had 2 HNs put their hands up. I said, great, now you're the LPO, right? Who here has an idea about ortho and some second classes. I think I know about it. I said, great. You're going to use your rank to support him in every decision he makes in orthopedics. I need you to support him in making sure he gets what he needs.
Right.
Because I need his expertise. You are an ENT guy. You have no idea. He knows ortho. You need to help him because he's going to be the busiest field. And I did that along the line of every single service. And I divided the 120 people into 3 different teams. One working AMs, one working afternoon, and one working midnight shift, right? And divide them all up from the central processing department to cleaning the instruments to back down to the OR. And I monitored every single shift, at least an hour in the evening, in the late night shift, and at least in the morning. I was there first thing before they came on.
Right.
But that was an incredible journey as a surgical tech, lead surgical tech, where we saved 845 lives in Haiti.
Wow.
845 surgeries in less than 45 days. We were designated as the #1 trauma center in the world.
And you said that was on the heels of a deployment you guys had done, going around like spread love and care throughout the world.
Yes.
And then you got sortied to go respond to the earthquake.
Yes.
So that was like what, 6 months totality, like all of it together?
So it was about a 3-month tour around the Continuing Promise, and then we came back and it was 45 days. So
and then they ramped you up with people from all across the Navy.
All across the Navy that you didn't know they came from.
And you were a second class at that time?
What's that?
Were you a second class at that time?
I was a first class at the time.
Just picked up first class. Okay.
Yeah, if you actually pull up a picture of the Haiti disaster and Prasad on Google, you'll see me on the desk ordering $20 million worth of supply. They gave me 72 hours to order all the supplies I needed. And within 72 hours, I ordered $72 million worth of supply for that mission.
Man.
It was ridiculous.
That sounds like an incredible time, though. Some of my favorite times was when the rules were kind of off, right? Like, go get this done, and I really don't care how you do it. Just make it work, right? Just don't do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical. Check. Absolutely. I could do that all day, right?
Well, the funny thing is, because of that, I was like, well, I've already done the best job that I could have done as a surgical tech. I don't want to do anything else as a surgical tech because I've already hit the pinnacle of what the Navy trained me to do.
Yeah.
So that's when I made the decision to archive. They're like, hey, listen, I've done this. I don't think there's anything else I could do. I've trained these guys. They're good. I'm going to archive my NCA and become a Quad Zero. And that's when I got orders to Bahrain. And man, I tell you what, I didn't even know what a Class 2 was in a dental class when I got there because I didn't know anything about being a Quad Zero.
Yeah.
And that was a learning curve.
Did they put you in dental? Is that where you went?
Well, I forgot to tell you, I was a fleet liaison for the 5th Fleet.
Okay.
That's another job that I did. So all the ships coming through the straits, Bahrain, had to check in. I had to mini register every single patient, make sure they had all their shots for anthrax and COVID, not COVID, but all the shots that are required for that theater.
Yeah.
And then make sure they were done, including smallpox, run a clinic for that. All of that stuff, man. It was ridiculous. And be a career counselor and be the, admin guy checking in people, making sure awards were done. Correspondence it was ridiculous. 16-hour days. It was ridiculous.
The only way, and look, I was very fortunate that I never did a geo batch tour. I did a lot of deployment, but I never did a geo tour. But that's the only way you could have done that job, it sounds like.
Yes.
I think if your family would have been there and you were trying to get home every day for dinner, that'd have been a tough balancing act.
No, and that including medevac coordinator too. I did that too. So everybody medevacing from every different ships, I would make sure I coordinate with ATOC and make sure the flights came in and had them go out at a specific time. So I honestly, I felt like I was a CMC during that time.
Right. Now, the things about the GB tour, the 12-month tour, is by the time you get there, you're almost immediately negotiating orders for your follow-on tour. Yes. So where did you negotiate to go to next?
So with that order, it was a hot fill. And I asked the recruiters, like, hey, can I have choice orders on the way out? And he said, sure. Where would you like to go? And so I said, hey, Hawaii sounds great. So they penciled me in for Hawaii.
Why not? Hawaii sounds like a good time.
Yeah. My wife was like, and mind you, I never left the States because my mom was always sick.
Yeah.
So after she passed, I kind of felt like, oh, my dad's healthy. I'm good to go. I can now go around the world and see what the world has to offer and be a part of the Navy internationally.
Right.
And granted, Hawaii's not international, but it was the first safe step.
Yeah, it's not mainland, right?
Definitely not.
It's still a trip, man. Yeah, for sure. So that's you guys went to Hawaii when you came back. So that's not bad for Rebecca. Sacrifice a year without you, but to get Hawaii on the backside. And did you do 3 years in Hawaii?
We did 3 years in Hawaii. Yep.
And where were you at the hospital there?
So I was at Makalapa Clinic, and you would understand this. I'm gonna be truthful. When I transferred out of Bahrain, after doing all that work, and Bahrain was considered a branch clinic from Naples, Italy.
Yep.
Working 60-hour days with all these different collaterals, and I was ranked as a first-class petty officer, as an MP, to the guy that was at the command as the career counselor.
Yeah.
And he was number 1, right?
Yeah.
Bro, I got so upset. The CMC came down and asked, how do you guys think about your fit reps or your eval? And I let him have it. I'm like, CMC, this is wrong.
Yeah.
For all the work that we put in here, and you guys are doing this whole clinical. I understand it now, but to me at that time, it was a pride thing that I invested all this energy and effort making my Navy great and making the sailors functional with all this stuff. And you guys are going to slap me with this when it could be progressively increasing my career, right? Because, I'm chasing chief. I'm trying to be chief now.
And sounds like your CMC was actually in Naples too. He wasn't in Bahrain.
No, he wasn't.
You're a name on a paper to him. He's coming by to shake hands, kiss babies, and
yes,
got it. That's a tough pill to swallow, man. And you're a 12-month geo batch where this other guy's probably a 3-year, 2-year.
Yeah, he's got his family. Every day he goes home. It's all good. But at this table, all the other first class thought I was crazy, but I let him have it. I don't.
No, you got to
play.
I get it.
I don't play. So I let him have it, and I got slapped with a 1-of-1 must promote transfer eval.
Damn, bro.
So what that means is that's a slap in the face. We don't need you to make chief because you don't know how to hold your tongue.
Yeah,
that's what that tells me. So luckily, I get into Makalapa, and I was greeted by Manny. I said Manny Pacquiao. Manny, what's his last name now? Shucks. But he was the master chief of the clinic down there. I forgot his last name. Can't remember for me. He was a great golfer, and that's why I learned. I got into golfing a lot too. But he took me under his wing. He's like, "Tell me what you do." So I told him. I said straight up, the master chief. I felt like I was unfairly evaluated, and this is what I did. These are all the things I did, and I bust my butt over there, and I got a thank you, goodbye, MP. He says, "I tell you what." He was Filipino. "I'll give you a chance. I'll send you." He sends me up to Wahiwa, which is a clinic that was trying to be built for the past 2 years.
Yeah. Now, is he an HMCM or a CMCM?
It's an HMCM.
Okay.
Right? Old school.
Old school.
Right?
Yeah.
And he sends me up to Makalapa. Mind you, previous LPOs have been there and they still do nothing. It's just been sitting there. The building's almost done. Nothing's happening. So I go there. Mind you, I have all these experience from supply to everything all around my career in my Navy, right? So I go up there and I work with Rhonda Bennett, which is the commander, lieutenant commander. She was the department head for the clinic. And she would go every week and brief on the status of the building with the CO. And they asked her a couple of questions, and she said she asked me for some help and input. So I gave her all the information that I have. And apparently I'd rattled some feathers with this information that I gave her because she broadcasted this information in front of CO, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
And the CO at the time said, "Hey, who is it that told you about this, all this stuff?" He goes, "Oh, my LPO was helping me out with this." And she was honest. I love her. Right. And she goes, the CO's like, bring HM1 next time you come to this meeting. And I was like, what's going on? So she came back. She told me what was happening. I printed out all the work orders of the tickets that was submitted for all the things that need to be fixed in this building and promulgated by timeline, dating back all the way to 2015. I printed it all out. And it had one guy's name next to it, David Bauer. He's going to probably hate me if he sees this right now. But we became very good friends. He knows. So I go there and I was like, I don't know anybody from Top Dog. I don't care. I've never been to a Top Dog meeting before. It's my first time at a big CEO conference and all this other stuff. Right? So he's like, where are you getting all this information? Well, sir, according to the system we use to document all these errors, called demos, right? We have to have all these work orders, and somebody's supposed to be reviewing these work orders and finding out progress. Well, none of these progresses have been updated since they've been submitted. And apparently some Maurer, who's Bauer, right?
Yeah.
And he's at the seat next to the CO. He's a GS13. Sitting there, and he's the facilities manager for the company, for the clinic. And I'm like, I don't know who that guy is, but he needs to be fired. Dude.
Hey, so goes the tale of the active duty versus the GS freaking whatever, right?
I told you what. So then the CEO looks at David and he says, David Bauer, do you think you should be fired? Right. And I'm like, oh, he's right here. Okay. So I immediately say, sir, why is all these tickets still open since 2015? He's like, I have to go back to my computer, look at them and see and validate. So like I said, I printed these things out. The very next day, all those tickets were deleted from the system.
Like start over, re-input them all over. That's crazy. Is this around the same place that had the water issue a while back with the fuel and the water and all that?
Yes, but that would be about 7 to 8 years later.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm just saying, if I pull the tea leaf, if I start pulling the strings, right, like those naval nuclear power people taught me to do, I bet you I can figure things out pretty quick, right? Man.
That's right.
So you're in, because you pick up Chief in Hawaii, right?
Yes. So it's because of this story. So now I get there 6 months into all this process, right? So he comes back, David Mount says, I don't know what he's talking about. There's no ticket. I say, okay, that's cool. I printed them all out for you. This is what happened before you deleted them all, sir. The next meeting, right? These are physical documents that I've printed out because it's my login and I have it here. But I'll do one better for you. I've actually inputted every single one of them again. So I need you to start working on it. And I told him that right there and then. Guess what? 2 months later, we moved into the clinic. It became the first medical home port across the Navy. That's the model of healthcare that they needed to do because we designed the clinic, and everybody across the Navy used that clinic as the model to spread medical home port.
Okay.
Then Master Chief says, Leslie, you did a good job. I need you to be the LPO of Makalapa. And dude, when he said that, every single LPO of Makalapa became chief prior to me. So what he was telling me is that once you've earned your position, because if you do good at Makalapa, you're guaranteed to be a chief. And I can't take credit. Chat Rice, now Master Chief Chat Rice, she was my chief at the time. Dude, I did not know how to write. Like, because I get straight to the point.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, here, I'm going to teach you how to do this. I remember how many times I got admin rejection. Like, you bring the letter, you write a note. Yeah. And she would look at it for 2 seconds and find a mistake and say, take it back. Do it again. Right. Take it back. Do it again. Take it back. Do it again.
Right.
Oh my God. I must have go in and out of our office 100 times a day because I did not know, but I learned.
Hey, Rebecca posted a comment on here. She said HMCM Evangu. Was that his name? Evangu.
Oh, Evangelista.
Evangelista.
Master Chief Evangelista.
That's a Filipino Master Chief name if I ever heard.
Oh yeah, bro. He had the guaranteed tea time at 8 o'clock at Navy Marine Corps golf course every Saturday. So he had the mafia connection for sure.
Oh man. So you said it a minute ago, we're about to hit our clock here for our time. I mean, and you and I can keep on going, brother. But
absolutely.
So you got to where you picked up anchors. Did you enjoy Chief initiation?
Yeah. I had a great time. At first, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And just like every single chief, I didn't get it. Even at the final night, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It took 2 years for me to understand what was really happening,
Yeah.
But
totally.
All of that accountability, all of that self-governing, and all those different lessons that are learned, being independent and self-accountability, man, I tell you, it played tremendously when you were left alone and you could have done anything you needed to do or wanted to do, but you stuck to your guns and did the job. I'm
going to tell you what, looking back on my career, my initiation to Chief Petty Officer changed my life. And I was already strong in a lot of ways, but as an adult, as a grown person, letting myself get put through some of those challenges And then some of it, looking at it, yeah, it's stupid, whatever. But a lot of it really brought value, right?
Yeah.
And that's why. So it's behind the anchor is this part of my show, just because I'm kind of showing people it's not going to be just Chiefs, right? And oh, by the way, for the world, can I tell them that where you're at? Not where you're at now, but like who you are now.
Oh yeah, sure.
My man is now a commissioned naval officer, ladies and gentlemen. Like he got to where he went from being a chief petty officer to commissioning, and essentially is now an industrial hygienist for the United States Navy. And so
now I'm the safety officer for JFK CVN-79, the newest carrier in the Navy.
Hey, so mama, he made you proud, man. Like there you go. And I think that it's that's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother conversation, right? But you're a beast, bro. You're such a great man, and I really appreciate you sharing this time with us. I'm going to ask you some questions here, rapid fire.
Okay.
Right? As we wrap this up, and we might have to do this again sometime because it's been
fun. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's fun, man. This really is a good time. Okay, here we go. The behind the anchor, rapid fire, locked in, pizza or wings?
Wings.
Wings. Any kind of wings?
Just barbecue wings, chicken wings, hot wings.
Any kind of wing. All right. Okay, so on your time on the Comfort, you might have experienced this, but this is for a shipboard guy, but you probably get it. Would you rather do berthing cleaner or working party?
Working party.
Okay, just check it.
Working party. I hate cleaning toilets. My wife knows that. I hate that.
Hey, there's different kind of people, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather go to the working party too. I'd rather go sling boxes, sitting in the berthing.
That's right.
That's lame.
Get a sweat. Okay. That's it.
De Niro or Pacino?
De Niro.
De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Which role?
I mean, he had a couple of roles, but was it Cape Cod? Was it a scary one where he was like a stalker? I think it was. He was a stalker, and then he has a whole bunch of good roles, man. He's just that gangster role is pretty cool.
Well, I like when he never gets too crazy, right? Al Pacino is like kind of yelling. Okay, what was your up until now throughout your career, looking back? What was your favorite duty station?
My favorite duty station. That's a toss-up. I had to pick two, but I would go with Spain first.
Okay, so we never got to Spain. That was next. Hawaii, right?
Yeah, and then Hawaii would have been second. For me personally, I mean, this is family, Spain and Hawaii for family. For me personally, Bahrain was a great duty station because I learned who I was individually. But Spain, without a doubt, was a great duty station.
I never got the chance to get to Spain, man. I've heard nothing but great things about it.
It was phenomenal.
Okay. Best place you've ever gone on Liberty?
Best place I've ever gone on Liberty.
Yeah, or just vacationed. Yeah.
Well, vacation, Vietnam, without a doubt.
When you went with the family from Guam to Vietnam?
Yeah, we went to Vietnam. It was a great trip. I mean, even going to Japan was great too, but Vietnam kicker because it was so cheap to do anything you wanted to do. Okay. We had like my wife and I, we had like 3 couples massage and I could afford it and it didn't break the bank. It was just amazing.
Right.
I mean, like how often can you do that? We did that within a week. They were there. We had 3 couples massages. It was crazy.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So Vietnam. All right. What's been the most difficult watch qualification you've ever had to earn?
Watch qualification. Well, you know what? I'm going to say the East Watch qualification, even though it was on the Comfort, right? It's not a watch qualification, but for me not having any idea what the Navy was before I joined, and then having to finally go on not a gray hull, a white hull, and learning naval customs tradition, the core, and then having to learn the ship specific. Now that wasn't that hard, but the core portion of it for me was tremendously difficult because I took it upon myself to memorize everything.
Right.
For no reason. I didn't need to memorize everything. I just needed to have be able to speak of it, not know it like it was facts. Yeah. Right. And that's what I think I do that. I overstudy no reason. I thought that was very difficult.
You know what I think is interesting about that answer is I think a lot of people would align with you as a warfare qualification being a hard qual, and especially corpsmen because they're typically fish out of water. They'd come on with the Marines on my ship, and they'd all be trying to get their ESWAS during the deployment, right? And it's just there'd be all these corpsmen trying to learn all these naval terms, and they're also Greenside corpsmen or whatever. So I can relate to that. Okay, so I think I already know your answer for this, but I'm gonna ask it again. Overseas or stateside? If you could be
Overseas, without a doubt.
Overseas, without a doubt. Got it. Okay. Favorite movie, trilogy, or series?
Favorite movie, trilogy, or series? All right. I don't know. I might. Well, Back to the Future. That's always a good.
I was waiting for Back to the Future, bro. I was waiting for you to say Back to the Future. That's in my top 3. Is Back to the Future too. I still remember being a kid when Back to the Future 2 wrapped up and they played the scenes from Back to the Future 3, and I was so hyped. I was like, "How are they going to be in the Old West? Like what?" Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah.
But no,
I thought it was a great series.
People sleep on it, bro. They sleep on Back to the Future. It was groundbreaking. Okay. You're a big musician person. Top 3. I mean, you can give me 5, but top 5 favorite music groups.
Oh man, you're gonna get me there because I'm terrible with names. I just know songs. So
top 5 favorite songs.
I've been getting a kick recently of all my classic rock guys, right? Because I listen to classic rock when I'm on the in the golf course.
Okay.
And what's it called? Bohemian Rhapsody. Like it's like my number 1 song. Yeah, Queen. See, I'm not gonna know the groups. I just know the names.
That's a big one.
You got like what's it? I'm blanking now.
I think what's funny is how
USA is a great song. That's
Springsteen.
Yeah. Okay. So like Hotel California.
Yeah, the Eagles.
Right? So I just know the songs, man. That's all it is.
Well, I just think it's funny because you're so musical. But I mean, is it also? Do you listen to a lot of praise music? Is that what it is?
Well, that's too. But then praise music, you got Hillsongs, you got Chris Tomlin, all those guys that like do worship. That's just contemporary. I'm speaking to the audience, but like me personally, in my car, I'm listening to praise and worship music in the morning, going and back and forth to work. The only time I'm listening to classic rock is when I'm on the golf course.
Okay, got it.
Because it's more of a communal thing that everybody can relate to that type of song. I play golf with guys, and they're like, "Yo, that's my era. That's a good jam. That's a good mix." Like,
they don't want to hear Hillsong right now. I got it. Hey, so would you rather be independent or on a team?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would prefer to be on a team, but love working independently. I don't know how that works.
That's because you like to be the boss.
No, not really. You see, the thing is, if I could be on a team, but just don't be breathing down my neck. I will do anything for the team. Just don't tell me how to do it. Okay. Unless there's a particular reason why you don't want me to do it. I'm a guy that's innovative and I can get stuff done in my own realm.
Yeah.
Just don't put me in a box because then I'm constrained.
Trust me that you want the trust. If you don't feel trusted, you're not going to want to do it. That's it. I get it. That is a leadership thing, right? If you're not demonstrating trust to your people, especially high performers, they're going to resent you, right? By the way, when they screw up, they're going to really feel horrible about it, right?
Yeah.
And there you go. Okay. Do you have a personal leadership philosophy?
A personal leadership philosophy. I can't name any specifically, but I would point to the Bible, and I would point to Moses and his leadership style. He was not afraid of input. He listened and observed Aaron as he led him. He appointed and delegated. That's the kind of things that I'm trying to do now as a man. And the one thing that I don't know if the Bible gives him enough credit, Moses was so close to God that his being in his presence, he came out from the presence of God.
Yeah.
His face shunned that he had to put a shawl over his head so the people were not afraid of him.
Yeah.
That's the type of leadership I want to emulate.
Yeah. Great. I love it. Moses. Okay. Out of going through initiation, I'm sure you learned dip class, right? deck plate leadership.
Okay, yeah.
Out of that acronym, which is your favorite letter and why?
All right.
Yeah, character, loyalty, active communication, sense of heritage, professionalism.
I want to say character.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, everybody can see your outward appearance. Your character is almost internal, and you can hold yourself accountable to your character in any and every situation. So if you're able to do that when you're by yourself, that will promulgate when you're amongst people in a group, because your character will flow through. And I want to say I'm very consistent in the way I do stuff. My wife is like, but you have the ability to flex a little bit in this situation or that situation. No, the standard is this, and we're going to go with that.
Yeah.
It's just part of the character.
And being consistent, man, is super, super critical. Okay. Would you rather lead or follow?
Depends on the situation.
Okay.
All right. In chaotic situations, I would prefer to lead. In organized situation that is a structure to it, I would prefer to follow. In an event, like for example, you would have events happening, event planning or whatever, right? And nobody knows what to do or I could pull stuff out and we could do it this way. I can mine and brainstorm quickly and get stuff done, right?
Yeah.
If now you tell me it has to be like, say, protocol officer, and it has to be a certain way, oh man, I hate that. You know what I'm saying? Because
I remember your protocol officer, right?
I'm structured to do it exactly the way, and I hate that because there's no wiggle room.
Okay. Yeah. No, awesome, man. Good stuff. Hey, you got any saved rounds or anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up?
No, man. Gary, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. This is like motivating me to write my book because I realize I have all these stories now, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you for the time. Continue doing this. If I influence or affect anybody that's listening to this, please feel free to reach out. You can share my my email. I'm always mentoring people. So message me if you need any questions answered. I'm glad to help out. So.
Yeah, I'll make sure I tag you in the shares so we can get the word out there. And brother, thank you so much for taking the time, right? Taking the time to share your spirit, to share your perspective, your family story, your story. And you know what's cool about this? This is going to live on there someday. You never know. Your great grandkids might come across this video and be like, oh my God, look at this guy. And there you go. So I appreciate you, bro. I love you, man. Good job.
I love you too, bro. And if you guys are interested in part 2, don't forget the thumbs up or like or whatever you guys do, right?
Like, I never do that, like, subscribe, all those things. Yeah.
But thanks, man. It's a great opportunity. Appreciate it.
For sure, brother. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Bye.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know